The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, welcome to our webinar.
Hello, everybody. All right, so we are good to go, and like Sandra said, welcome to the webinar, How to Become Paperless within NAV and Achieve a Fast ROI. My name is Michael Introvertolo. I am the Marketing Manager here at Solution Systems. Today we are going to have Zetadocs presented to us by Sandra Cummings and Mitch Brown. They'll be conducting most of the interview. So let me go ahead and pass this on over to them, and they can get started.
Thank you, Michael. Go ahead. I'm Sandra Cummins, the Account Manager for Equisys, and joining me is Mitch Brown, our Sales Director. We're very excited to show you how you can use Zetadocs 9.1 Delivery and Capture to increase your efficiency and enhance the level of service you offer your customers. We have prepared an interactive session for you today, so feel free to ask questions at any time. You can either type your questions in the questions section on the screen, and we will also pause a few times throughout the webinar to ask if you have questions as well. And just thanks again for joining us. We're going to keep just moving on, starting with what we're going to talk about today. Equisys has been working with NAV users for over a decade, and we have helped hundreds of small to mid-sized companies reduce their reliance on paper and increase their productivity as a result. During conversations with business owners of companies like yours, several challenges kept coming up when these companies attempted to go paperless. And we're going to share. We are a developer of document management software ourselves. We have moved away from paper and saved our company thousands of dollars by shifting to an electronic filing cabinet. This webinar is designed to help you see how you can benefit from document management solutions. Any NAV user, primarily those who are based in the office and use paper for a variety of reasons, can benefit from document management, including people that send and receive documents such as invoices, proof of delivery notes, or purchase receipts. Users that print documents to refer to in the future and then save them in a file cabinet will also benefit. Document management is also for businesses who have staff who are out on the road and incur expenses. Expenses that are usually presented in an expense report with paper receipts attached. Often those receipts are taped to pieces of paper and then are scanned and sent to the user's inbox, and then they attach them to the expense report. And our Zetadocs expenses will show you how you can eliminate that process, and your reps on the road can upload those expenses much more efficiently. And lastly, businesses who are keen to reduce their use of paper and wish to become paperless can benefit from Zetadocs by taking advantage of the time and cost-saving opportunities that being paperless presents. So how many of you have felt a bit like this? You might be familiar with the frustrating feeling of having to print and rely on paper documents such as invoices, sales confirmation orders, emails, receipts, or reports. The documents are stored in an overflowing paper filing cabinet, and when you need to access them to, for example, help you handle a customer or supplier question or to write a report, you waste substantial time searching for paper documents, only to not find them or find them too late. Does this scenario sound familiar? It's a familiar scenario, I know, for us and our experiences in the past. So you're in the right place to learn how you can move on from this type of paper-based system. During the next 30 minutes or so, will help you discover the true cost of paper within your business, going beyond the simple purchase price of the paper and the toner that goes with it. You'll be surprised by the stats on how much time and money paper costs organizations. We'll share the common challenges mid-sized businesses face when trying to reduce their paper usage, some of which I'm sure you will relate to. We'll then show you real examples of how other mid-sized businesses have gone paperless and how you can make some of those changes today. I'd like to share with you our background and why we believe we are in a position to share challenges and tips on how to become paperless. Our company is called Equisys, but most NAV users have heard of our Zetadocs products, such as Zetadocs Capture, Delivery, Approval, and Expenses. We are a mid-sized business ourselves, and our experience with Microsoft Dynamics NAV runs over a decade. In 2007, we introduced Zetadocs for NAV, and it is now well established as the richest suite of business process add-ons for NAV, with over 5,000 companies using it globally. We were one of the first NAV add-ons to achieve certified for Microsoft Dynamics accreditation. And recently, we were the second add-on worldwide to receive the Microsoft Dynamics NAV certification for 2017. We are also a member of the President's Club for Microsoft Dynamics, and we are a Microsoft Gold Partner. Microsoft chose to work with us to provide cloud-based document management for users of Dynamics NAV. And similar to most organizations, we had a reliance on paper before we designed our document management software, with NAV users like you in mind. And hopefully this all demonstrates our credentials in this field. So let's kick off by looking at the financial and time costs of paper to businesses. The average office worker uses 10,000 sheets of paper per year, but it is estimated that 6,800 or 68% of these sheets of paper are wasted. Reasons for wasted paper include printing documents unnecessarily, printing duplicates, failing to use the duplex function, or just misplacing or forgetting about printed documents. There's so many different scenarios of when multiple people print the same document. It could be that a customer has reached out to more than one person asking for the same information, and so multiple people print out documents without knowing it. According to a study by EDM Group, the average employee wastes 1.5 hours per week looking for documents and information that has been misplaced or lost at work. This equates to 37.6 million hours wasted a week, worth an eye-watering $557 million worth of time. Over the course of a year, that corresponds to 1.95 billion working hours wasted, worth $29 billion. Think about how much time you spend every week looking for paper-based information. Is it more than 1.5 hours? It might seem like a lot of time, but when you really think about it, that adds up, and it does make sense, especially when you think about the other people in your company and how much this is costing you overall. And as if the time of looking for documents wasn't costing businesses enough, did you know that 1 in 5 employees then end up recreating those documents in a scenario like I just used for an example? This all demonstrates that it is not simply the cost of purchasing the paper, but the time and money that is wasted through inefficient paper-based processes that are hampering your productivity and the productivity of your team. An easy way to identify an area for improvement is to ask yourself, what are the most used paper-based processes within your company. So now you might be forming an opinion as to how you and your company can benefit from going paperless. So let's take a look at some of those benefits. The first is the amount of time you can save. Have you ever spent time searching for a paper document in a room full of paper filing cabinets? Or even in one paper filing cabinet that's been stuffed full, where you have to take the whole folder out, put it on your desk, and start going through it. Storing documents digitally can make it much quicker and easier to retrieve the relevant information, allowing you and your staff to focus on more important tasks and therefore increase productivity levels throughout the office. There's also greater security involved in going paperless. Setting passwords and appropriate access authorization means that only the right people will be able to view confidential data, and it makes it much harder for it to get lost. And then there are also significant financial benefits. We've already mentioned the cost involved in purchasing paper and the ongoing expense of it. But going paperless will reduce these costs significantly and allow you to dedicate those funds to other resources. Many companies worry about the initial costs involved in moving paper processes to digital ones. But we are finding that 59% of businesses achieve full return on investment in 1 year, while 84% achieve this in 18 months. You can definitely achieve a full ROI very quickly by going to document management software. If there is another reason why you are exploring the option of going paperless, you can type it in the question section, or if you want to ask before we go any further, if there's something that you'd like me to go into, or if there's other questions that you might have when thinking about going paperless. So let's take a look at what other companies are doing to reduce reliance on paper. And you can introduce these processes very easily as well. There are plenty of small changes that you can make around the office that will add up to a greater impact. For example, defaulting your print server to print double-sided as opposed to printing on a single side of multiple pieces of paper. You can also communicate your paperless goals with vendors and customers and request that documents such as delivery notes or invoices can be sent electronically. And you might want to add a message to your email signature asking the recipient to only print if necessary. You may also consider offering self-service archive portals based on SharePoint where employees can get information that they would typically post or print. Storing documents against the relevant transaction in NAV will also significantly help replace your paper filing cabinet. We find that most employees that are using NAV very quickly catch on to how this works with the Zetadocs solution. And the transition is fairly seamless. For documents that you do need to send, rather than printing and mailing, convert these into a digital format and then send them electronically instead. For example, invoices, proof of delivery notes, goods received notes, or sales orders can all be sent from within NAV via email. If you are looking to really make a difference and dramatically improve your team's effectiveness using NAV, consider introducing a digital document management system. This type of system does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, replacing your filing cabinets and paper-based documentation processes with digital ones. We have spent over a decade in the NAV space, developing and improving the most comprehensive suite of add-ons to tackle all of the challenges that we have covered. So what you're seeing on the screen now is a listing of the different solutions. Zetadocs for NAV is a rich suite of business process add-ons that enhance NAV by handling and approving supplier invoices, emailing purchase invoices and notifications, and capturing proof of delivery notes, also managing travel and business expenses. The products in the suite are called Delivery, Capture, Approvals, and Expenses. Zetadocs Delivery is capable of sending batches of documents as PDFs by email, including personalization of that email. Zetadocs Capture can be used to scan and file batches of paper documents, filing them automatically if required. Within Delivery and Capture, there are 3 different levels of functionality and benefits. Zetadocs Express is the foundation level document management solution in the Zetadocs family and allows for users up to 4. An upgrade to the Zetadocs Essentials Edition brings additional benefits such as batch delivery of documents and structured archive folders. Our Plus editions give you the ability to automatically capture inbound documents using barcodes and OTR, and also set up automatic batch delivery of documents. Our Payables Approval Service allows finance teams to take control of supplier approvals and manage the entire invoice authorization process online. And lastly, Zetadocs Expenses allows users to track and monitor their expenses while on the road using their laptop, smartphone, or tablet. Expense reports can be submitted to NAV and routed through an approval process from there. Zetadocs Expenses integrates directly into NAV reports, and documents upload directly into NAV. The client fully supports the NAV app for phone and tablet. So now I'm going to pass this over to Mitch, and he's going to show you how these features can assist you with your document processing within NAV.
All right. Thank you, Sandra. Let me just get our NAV system up. Okay, so for today's demonstration, I was going to highlight some of the advantages that Zetadocs Delivery and Capture provide organizations. Now, Sandra talks about several of these over the last few minutes. One of the ones I want to really focus on is being able to access information. And that's probably one of the #1 reasons why people deploy Zetadocs is they want to be able to easily access the information they need to do their job without having to run over to file cabinets or contact the finance team. Over the years, we've worked with companies that, their current processes of storing paper files, actually, they are paying some estimated $35,000 a year in storage space just for their paper file cabinets. And obviously, when a customer calls in with a question, that means that the individual needs to take their information and let them know that they're going to follow up with them later on, because there's no easy way to access that. So how does Zetadocs help? First off, here I'm in a sales order within NAV. Over on the right-hand side at the very top, you can see that we've entered in or added a document fact box to the sales order window. And this document fact box is what Zetadocs uses to display records that have been stored. Now, I should mention that Zetadocs does support NAV 2009 with both the Classic and Role-Tailored client all the way through 2017. So you can be comforted in knowing that we are always, when we add support for the latest versions and add or release a new version of Zetadocs, we still support the old ones because we realize that you're not going to be upgrading your NAV system all the time. So for starters, here we have a sales order on screen. And this sales order, let's say, is based on an email that we received from a customer that has a PO attached, and we want to be able to archive that so if there's ever a question, we have it as a point of reference. Now, I can archive this by dragging and dropping the entire email. What that will do is it's actually going to store a copy of that email out to a central archive and tag it with fields from NAV that will relate it to the appropriate transaction. Now, one thing I do like to highlight is when we drag and drop that email, not only are we getting the body of the email, but we're also getting any attachments that have actually gone with that email as well. So there you can see we've got the email and we've got the PDF of the PO that was attached. Now, in those instances where you don't really need to retain the body of the email, all you want is the PDF attachment or Word attachment, you can just drag and drop the attachments if that's all you need. We designed the solution to be extremely flexible and allowing users just to capture the information that they want. Now, this purchase order is available to anyone that opens up this record. So if there's a discrepancy on the quantity or pricing, all someone needs to do is simply click on the attached file to see the supporting documentation. Now, with Zetadocs, when this sales order gets posted and it becomes a posted sales invoice in the system, all of these files are going to flow through with the transaction. So let's go ahead and post these, and I'm just going to go ahead and ship and invoice these. Whoops, it helps if I put a sales tax group in. Hold on one moment. There we go. There we are. Just because I know that one's set up. So let's try this again. So now we can see that sales order 1005 has been deleted, and we've created a sales invoice in the system, 103085. Let me expand that. And there you can see the supporting documents that were attached to the sales order have flowed through to the posted sales invoice. That's one of the key features with Zetadocs, is the fact that anything that's attached to one record will follow the posting routine. By default, we support sales and purchasing, but you can also, with some customization, add support for production orders or service orders in the system as well. The drag and drop is probably the most popular way we've seen files being archived, but we do also have the capability to auto-link scan documents based on barcodes. So if you're still receiving a lot of proof of delivery documents or vendor invoices that are arriving in the mail, we can place barcodes on those so that they can be scanned and attached to the relevant record within NAV. If you'd like to see more details regarding those solutions, feel free to reach out to Solution Systems, and we'd be happy to set up a demonstration highlighting that functionality in more detail based on your unique requirements, because we know each organization is a little bit different as far as how they process those items. So Zetadocs can greatly streamline the archiving of supporting information, as we've just shown. Now I want to go in and show you how we can actually streamline the delivery of information. So let's go into NAV, and probably one of the most common ones we get asked about on the delivery side is the sending of invoices, because we all want to be sure we get paid. So let's take a look at how Zetadocs can streamline that process. So here I'm on our posted sales invoices, I should highlight that the fact box is also available on list pages, so you can actually see the supporting information without having to drill into a particular invoice in this case. But what I really want to do is I want to get all the invoices sent out to our customers. And within the ribbon at the top of your screen, you can see we've got a Zetadocs area, and I'm going to click on the send. And normally you would do this based on the posting date, but since I'm dealing with demonstration data, I'm just going to go ahead and do it based on a numeric range. Now, what the system's doing is we're going out looking at the customer card to determine how we want to deliver these invoices, because you can actually create rules not only by customer or vendor, but also the report type. So, for example, the Canon group, you could have invoices going to one person and statements going to another based on rules. Now, with Zetadocs, we also have a nice consolidate feature, which means all the invoices for a particular customer will be consolidated into a single email that gets sent out, rather than that user receiving an email for every single invoice. But you have the option, once again, however you prefer to send them out, that's how the system can be configured. So I'm going to go ahead and send these. Now, throughout the delivery process, if you had any questions regarding the status, you can simply go into the outbox and you can drill down to a particular entry to see how many of those have been processed. So here I can actually go ahead and refresh to watch these go out. But rather than taking time watching that outbox, I'm going to go over to Outlook, and let me make this bigger again, and show you an example of a consolidated invoice I sent out earlier today. So when sending, we can personalize the body of the email. So we're saying, Dear Terry, please find the attached invoice numbers. We've got a copy of each invoice that we've overlaid stationery on to include a logo. So we've got the 3 invoices attached. We also have automatically attached a conditions of sale document. So when sending out your invoices, your statements, your order confirmations, one of the great benefits of Zetadocs is it's going to deliver those documents out in a consistent manner with a consistent look and feel to all your customers and vendors. Now, what I've described so far is available in the Delivery Essentials version. With the Plus edition, we allow for some further automation. And a perfect example, and this is something we've had a lot of positive feedback on, is oftentimes when you're sending out reports such as statements or reminders, well, those are based on overdue invoices, and when you send them out, a customer is typically going to call up asking for copies of those. Well, with Zetadocs, we can actually make sure that customers receive everything they need in order to initiate payment. Now, in my system, I have it set up with reminder letters. So when sending out a reminder letter, number 1, we've overlaid stationery or watermark to indicate that this is the final demand, because this is an account that's severely past due. It's a reminder level 2. But in addition to the reminder letter, we've also included copies of all the relevant invoices on that reminder. So when we're sending it out, the customer is receiving all the information they need to initiate payment. Hopefully you can see the benefit of that. We've been getting a lot of positive feedback when we've been speaking to the AR teams, where more often than not, whether it be a delaying tactic from customers, they're always asking for copies of invoices whenever they send out statements or reminders. So that's a high-level overview of some of the capture and delivery capability. As I mentioned before, we know all organizations have unique challenges. So I do recommend that you reach out to Michael and the Solution Systems team on possibly having a follow-up call with either Sandra or myself to discuss your unique challenges. So with that, let me actually go back into our PowerPoint. Okay. All right. If I can get PowerPoint to move. There we go. All right, so just to recap some of the benefits of capturing, archiving, and delivering documents using Zetadocs. Zetadocs integrates with NAV so that documents such as emails, PDFs, and images can be simply dragged and dropped directly onto the NAV record for secure storage. Alongside relevant transactions, is this electronic archive where you can store proof of delivery documents, you can store the original PO from customers, any email communications. Everything is going to be accessible to users directly on screen. This can save a significant amount of time because no longer will customer service need to contact someone in finance or go over to a file cabinet. They can access that information directly on screen from their desk. And if they want to work remotely from time to time, they can do that because when they're out of the office, they still have access to the information they need to do their job. They don't have to be going back and forth to those paper file cabinets. Also, by having everything stored electronically in a secure location, it allows organizations to specify rights as to who can view those documents. You also can determine who has delete permission. So you can have everyone with view capability, but only certain users will be able to delete files from the central archive. That's adding to the security. And with the more advanced versions of Zetadocs, and if you're using SharePoint as your archive, we can also set up different folders to ensure that users only have access to certain files. So for example, the AR team will only see sales-related information, while the purchasing team would only, or AT team would see the purchasing side. And with both both sides, you could actually have HR documents stored elsewhere that neither sales and purchasing can access. It's clear, it's easy to see, at least in my mind, I've been doing this for years, that with an electronic document management delivery solution, it's going to save an organization significant amounts of money because no longer do you have any postal charges when delivering invoices or statements. You're not printing off emails just to put them in a paper file cabinet. Everything can be stored electronically, and it will minimize the amount of paper that's being produced. However, don't just take our word for it. Have a look at what one of our customers has to say. This firm is a leading designer and manufacturer of aircraft interiors, and they estimate that they save 1 day a week thanks to Zetadocs in being able to capture, deliver, and retrieve documents quickly and easily. If you'd like to make similar savings, we do have a return on investment calculator on our website that you can use, but also, I can't stress it enough, reach out to the solution systems team and discuss some of the challenges that you're currently facing. Now I'm going to switch gears for a moment and talk about another area where we see paper copies and manually filing prevalent within organizations, and that's the approval of employee expenses. We're moving away from holding on to receipts until the end of the month to creating a fully, within our organization, what we've done is we've created a fully integrated cloud solution to make it easier for everyone to submit and approve expenses anytime, anywhere. The solution is called Zetadocs Expenses, and it enables users to snap a photo of a receipt when they incur an expense rather than leaving it to an end-of-the-month task. Putting expenses on screen is a better way of managing T&E expenses. It helps eliminate paper and streamline processes. So stop thinking about expenses as a challenge and start thinking about it as an opportunity to save time, gain control, and reduce costs. So how does it work? So with Zetadocs expenses, and I'm going to go through a couple of rules, or roles, I should say. You've got David, who is a account executive that's on the road. He's going to be incurring expenses, which he needs to submit. Before using Zetadocs, he would take all of his receipts, attach them to an Excel spreadsheet that he filled out, submit that to his manager for approval before it made its way over to the finance team, who had to rekey that information into NAV. With Zetadocs expenses, we have an app for Android and Apple devices that allows David to enter in the details directly from his phone, take a picture of the receipt. Within the app, it allows you to select what type of expense, and that will actually be matched up with NAV coding. So if it's a client entertainment expense, that'll actually match up when it gets imported into NAV. But David can capture all of this information on his phone as soon as the expense is incurred. At the end of a week, when he's done, let's say, traveling to see clients or at a trade show, he can then submit an expense report that includes all the expenses for a certain time period, whether it be a week or the month. He can compile all of those into a single report that gets sent to his manager for approval. Also, once he's submitted an expense, he can actually then track the progress directly from his phone. Now, once he submits an expense, his manager is going to receive a notification with a link to the exact expense on the expense site. Now, David's manager, Phyllis, from within the app will be able to see all the expense line item information. She'll also be able to see copies of the receipts. And most importantly, within the system, you can set up thresholds so that based on the GL code, if a certain threshold is exceeded, a warning will automatically be issued. And that warning will easily be identified, or easily be indicated to all the approvers. So when they look at the line items, they'll quickly be able to scan and see which ones are over the thresholds that are set in the system. This is important because it can make sure that any expense policies are being followed. Now, once Phyllis looks through all the information and determines that everything is fine and is ready to be or David should be reimbursed, all she needs to do is click on the approve button. And once it's approved, then it goes to a AP processor for final approval. That AP processor can review the information, make sure that all of the coding is correct, because when they approve it, the system will then create a purchase invoice within NAV, passing all of the information over. So you'll not only get a purchase invoice that's reimbursable to the employee, but also the line item detail. Now, for those of you that have employees that are using corporate credit cards, there's not an issue. They can submit one expense report, and once it's approved, the system will create two purchase invoices within NAV, one for all the corporate credit card charges, which are not reimbursable, and then one for any, let's say, cash expenditures or expenditures that are reimbursable to the employee. Zetadocs expenses can help your office become paperless by eliminating the need to keep a hold of paper receipts, meaning no time is wasted searching for them. It saves time because approvers have greater control over the approval process, and because the process is online, expenses are processed in real time rather than waiting to the end of the month or wasting time searching for the appropriate expense request. Money is also saved thanks to enforcing of company spending policies. And because it's a cloud-based service built on Windows Azure, it's available anytime from anywhere on practically any modern browser or apps, like I mentioned, for Android and iOS devices. With that, I'm actually going to pass things back over to Sandra because I think she's going to tell us a little about a customer success story.
Yes, David Phillips is one of the UK's largest furniture service providers.
Tom Darling, their group systems manager, has implemented Zetadocs expenses within Microsoft Dynamics NAV and sent us this wonderful comment about how Zetadocs expenses has completely streamlined their expenses process within the business and freed up considerable time from his staff across all departments. And I think that's really the nice thing about it, is that all departments. It really affects everybody who uses the expense system, and just in every way it frees up what could have been, or what is in some instances, a very time-consuming process to something very easy and quick. David Phillips has been one of our clients for over 10 years, and we wanted to just kind of move into how you can estimate your ROI using Zetadocs expenses. The ROI, there's a little URL address on the bottom of the screen there for the ROI, and if you want to go ahead and write that down, then you can go online, plug in your numbers, and see how the ROI would work for you. But we are finding that companies that deploy the expenses solution find their ROI return within easily a year, if not sooner. So we've mentioned throughout this webinar that becoming paperless can provide you with a return on investment. But how much of a return is really depending on how you use your current process and how you use NAV. We've designed a tool to help you understand your current cost for processing, not only expenses, but also your day in and day out use of NAV. So we have return on investment calculators for both the other solutions that we presented in addition to expenses. And now I'd kind of like to open it up to the listeners on the call and ask, as we've gone through the presentation, how you can use document management software to help not only streamline but free up the time and the resources that you're currently putting towards paper-based saving and delivery of documents. Does anybody have any thoughts to share? Do you find that it would be helpful?
Maybe we just have to see in the question and answer. Michael, has there been any questions that come in?
Yeah, I think there is a question from Steven. Let me see if I can get it up here real quick. It says, to back up, how did you bring up the option to consolidate invoices emailed to customers? I am looking for that option on my screen and can't find the options.
We may need to follow up because the consolidate feature is a feature that we've added with
Richard.
Zetadocs version 8. So one thing I should mention is about a year ago, we came out with a new deployment methodology for Zetadocs to customers that are running NAV 2015 and newer systems called server-side. And that has the consolidate feature. So it sounds to me like the person that asked the question is currently using Zetadocs and they're not seeing it. So we may just need to look at either upgrading your Zetadocs system, provided you're on NAV 2015 and newer. That's something that we could work with SSI on upgrading from the version you're using to a server-side deployment that has the consolidate feature.
All right. And that looks to be, just make sure here. Yep, that looks about it for questions. So I want to say thank you to Mitch and Sandra. We truly appreciate it. If anybody has any more questions, feel free to reach out to me, or you on the screen. You should be able to see Mitch's and Sandra's information. We'll do our best job to answer it. If you guys got anything more to add, Mitch or Sandra?
Not really. We have other upcoming customer webinars, and I'll send all that information to Michael, and then you can pass that on when we have updates from time to time and other informative webinars to present.
Perfect. Sounds great. So on that note, thanks everybody for attending. We have recorded this webinar, so I will send everybody a copy of the webinar. And once again, appreciate Mitch and Sandra for doing this for us, and everybody have a great rest of the day.
Sounds great. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Bye.